start here. We are all made of stars. And this is not just song lyrics, it is literally true. We're all made of this star, which is our sun. All of the energy in the world came from the sun. It's not just solar and wind, but also the coal and the oil and the gas in the ground came from this star. And if you look around and add up all the energy an average earthling gets, it's about the same as one toaster. If you super glue the button down, run it 24/7, that's about the same amount of energy as all the heating, cooling, jet fuel, food, everything combined for an average person on Earth. But where I come from, we get 8 bonus toasters. And if you want to know why it's awesome to be an American, it's right here in this slide. We get 9 toasters, and to get it averages like that, 3 billion people live on less than 1 toaster. That is not an acceptable living standard to anyone in this room or anyone you know. That is energy demand. And when you see people talk about energy demand, they don't do it this way. They show you a chart that adds a few percent a year. No. The true energy demand on planet Earth is 10x global energy production, which sounds insane, but we have done it before. In the last century, we 10x'd global energy production. Now, we did it by burning more coal and oil and gas. Hopefully, we learned our lesson, and we don't want to do 10x those things now. We have to invent new ways of doing this. We've been trying to do it with solar panels, but they suffer from 2 big problems: clouds and nighttime. The relentless onslaught of night has been fucking with our solar panels. We don't know what to do about it. But it turns out if you take that same solar farm and you launch it into space, it'll get 8 times as much energy. It's actually noon in space all the time. We just have a bad angle on it. So a solar panel up there will get a lot more energy, and then you can beam that down to Earth using radio waves. And I know this sounds like crazy science fiction, and it was, but we have all the tech to do this. The only problem with it has been launch cost. In a space shuttle, it would have cost $40,000 to put your MacBook in space. Now, SpaceX got that down to $1,500. And their target for Starship, their big rocket, is 10. In your lifetime, it will become cheaper to store your old sports ball equipment in space than in your closet. Like, that's what's happening. And that's why all this changes. So this shit's interesting. If you had a soup can full of depleted uranium, it would contain enough energy to power you and your whole family for your entire lifetime. Instead, it's going to be hundreds of rail cars of coal and gas. But the stuff, of course, is radioactive and dangerous and messy, and we've been sort of saving the waste for our grandkids in stockpiles. Maybe they'll figure out how to 3D print CrossFit gyms or something out of it. We don't know. I met this team that figured out how to make a new design for a nuclear reactor that'll fit through a manhole, and you bury it a mile deep in a borehole underground. It's unquestionably safe. It's under 10 billion tons of rock. It's a mile from anyone's backyard. It's super simple to do. It's super cheap to do. The team was on a fast track to get the first reactor approved, build a test core, and deployed in 2029. The Department of Energy is pushing them to do all of it by July. We are in a totally new world within the last year for finally building nuclear reactors. They have a wait list for 840 of these things. You need more energy, drill more holes. Turns out we have a whole industry that's real good at drilling holes in the earth. Need a lot more energy? They can put 1.5 gigawatts on 3 acres. That's what's possible. We are these story-powered creatures, humans. And when we get a story in our head, it controls us. When we were kids, we conflated nuclear reactors with nuclear bombs. We outlawed the wrong one. And if you'd done it the other way around, you never would have heard of global warming. We are living on the wrong fork in history, and we're still not being honest with ourselves about this. And that's about to change. And this is, to me, the most exciting possible thing going on in the world. This is a stockpile in Kentucky that has 700,000 metric tons of depleted uranium left over from making nuclear reactors and from making bombs, mostly. In this one stockpile, there is still enough energy in what we call waste to power the entire planet, including growth, for about the next 1,000 years. We don't even need to mine uranium. That's what's possible. Why are we still digging shit up and burning it? So the stuff I work on, we call it deep tech. And to explain that to my mom, I sort of had to come up with a name for the other stuff. You know what I'm talking about. What technology did Airbnb invent? This is our tech industry? We think we live in a world full of tech. We live in a world full of software, right? Well, I mean, the Silicon Valley's big win is disrupting Yellow Cab. What about disrupting General Electric or General Motors or General Mills or Saudi Aramco? We've been recycling the cheapest crap on earth for our entire lives. We're burning more gas to recycle plastic bottles than if we just made fresh plastic. Another case where we're not being honest with ourselves, right? And sometimes we're putting the cart before the horse on these technologies. And it's crazy to think about because we haven't even started recycling the most expensive stuff on Earth. Every year, $20 billion, probably now closer to $30 billion, worth of gold goes into electronics and then ends up in a gold mine we call landfill. So we found a team that figured out how to use a new chemistry to liquefy those metals and separate them from all the other junk. We can reuse that. Gold is infinitely recyclable. And what's wild is these technologies exist, but we're all wound up about, are we going to make agents to order Ubers for us? Okay. So we've been funding these SaaS holes in Silicon Valley for decades. And what they've been doing is not technology, and that changes now. Now is this inflection point where we finally get to go build the world we want, bring these other technologies to life, solve the bigger problems, and that's what I'm trying to show you. This is another great example. Everything we build is made of cement. It's the most used material on Earth aside from oil. And we load it up with steel rebar to reinforce it, and in 50 years it'll crumble, which is crazy because of this thing. The Romans built that thing 2,000 years ago, the Pantheon, and it's still there in a seismic zone made of unreinforced concrete. And nobody's been able to figure out how they did that. It's like they got drunk at the after party and completely forgot how to make cement. Yeah. We found a guy at MIT who figured it out. We now know how to make cement that lasts virtually forever, use less of it, use less steel, doesn't cost more, can do it in any cement factory, and the kicker, 20% less CO2, which is huge in cement. I mean, cement is massive CO2 emitter, 8 to 13% of global CO2 emissions every year. Once I got bored and I added up the revenue of all these software companies that are in our headlines every day, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all of them combined, guess how much they make in a year? $2 trillion in revenue, which is a staggering amount of money until you consider this. Global GDP is in excess of $100 trillion a year. So our big tech industry that we're all wound up about is doing 2% of what humans rely on. Deep tech is the other 98% that Silicon Valley's been ignoring. You know, software is eating the world, but the world can't eat software. Not just food, and not just, cement, but mining, manufacturing, construction, water, energy. These are the things every single human on Earth relies on, and they remain untouched by Silicon Valley, the biggest markets in the world. Most people don't know, but cargo ships have 2 gas tanks. The first one burns refined fuel like your car, not clean but invisible. As soon as they get over the horizon, out of sight, they switch to burning this nasty bunker oil. It's the most carbon emissions intensive shit you can burn. Like, it's optimized for carbon emissions. It's liquid coal. It is the grossest stuff, but it's cheap. And that's why they do it, right? This is crazy because we could make these things. Like, why not duct tape a Tesla to the front of the cargo ship and make it self-driving? Like, we know that'll work. It's easier than driving on roads. There's like one documented pedestrian ever to hit out there. So self-driving cargo ship ought to work. Sailing has been working for centuries. So no reason to think that won't work. But instead, this industry burns half of its OPEX. It literally burns half of all the dollars. And this is a $2 trillion industry. Shipping alone is as big as all the software, and nobody ever talks about it. Nobody ever thinks about it. So I know I'm throwing a lot of shade on Silicon Valley and software, but that's where I come from. This is my best friend from childhood. And when I grew up in the cold, in the dark, in the basement in Alaska with this thing, nobody believed it was cool or useful. I actually had the computer and a skateboard, and people were kind of conflicted about which was the bigger waste of time. But Revenge of the Nerds, I was right. This thing got useful. Now they've gone everywhere. Then we had to kind of redo everything for the web, and then we had to redo everything for mobile, and now we have to redo everything for AI, but we're just going after the same low-hanging fruit, right? Now we build these giant supercomputers, and what I want to try and convey to you is these are not for chatting. These are for making computational models. When we talk about AI, we're talking about how do you make a computational model of the world that your business lives in, the world that your industry lives in, and how do you use that to run simulations so that humans can make better decisions. And it doesn't start with chatting, okay? We're going to make these AIs that can help us with everything else. Now, if you're making a hypersonic jet or a rocket or a Tesla, you design it in software, you test it in software, you crash it in software. You do that thousands of times until you know what's going to work and you build one. We mock SpaceX for blowing up a rocket now and then. They don't have to blow up nearly as many rockets as NASA did, right? NASA had to iterate in hardware. SpaceX is iterating in software, and now and then, to sort of calibrate the model and make sure it matches reality, they blow up a rocket. That's what's going on. And we're going to reinvent every single industry with these superpowers. And when we talk about AI, that's what we mean. So look, if you need more high-quality bullshit from me, the current #1 bestseller in tech and venture capital is my book, Deep Future. And I'm going to hang out and talk to you guys all day if I can, but I talked fast enough that we can take like 2 questions. So thanks for listening. Yeah. Put that there. Yeah. No, I think that's a cool idea, and people have been figuring out how to reduce the cost of producing graphene at scale, and there's some really cool things you could do with that. But I don't think that's where the biggest wins are that are cost effective right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Nuclear fusion, unattainable?
Not unattainable, but I think it's completely irrelevant on a venture time scale. So we don't do plasma fusion reactors. I think that people are sort of overselling how soon they can be commercially useful. So that's my view. We could argue about it offline, though, if you want. Yeah. Yeah, I think fission is the right thing to do now. That's been working for 60 years. We know it works. We just didn't scale it. And with fusion, there's several really extreme engineering problems that are left. We got out of the science risk era, which is very cool, like super cool thing, but we're now in this extreme engineering era. It's a lot harder than rockets. It's a lot harder than anything else we've built. Yeah. So there are other types of fusion reactors, and I have invested in some of them that are kind of a little more wild in the sense that they haven't had as much research, but we think are much easier and more practical, and we have them working in the lab. So I think there's nano-confinement fusion is one of the things I'm bullish on. Yeah, then that could happen faster. Yeah.
Hey, Pablo. How about geoengineering climate change? What about that?
Yeah, I worked on some of the first big, cost-effective geoengineering ideas, putting sulfur dioxide in the stratosphere. I think these are good Band-Aids. We should probably develop them, and probably we're going to need them. But there's no business model, and they're wildly unpopular, and the global political decision-making machinery, I think it makes it just completely intractable. So those are hard ones, not for technical reasons. They're super easy and super cheap. We could reverse the warming effects of climate change in probably months for hundreds of millions, not even billions. And but humanity just doesn't have our act together as far as making good decisions on a large scale like that. So that's what I think. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to get off stage, but I will hang out. I promise I'm a lot nicer than I seem. So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing. So please come hang out. Thanks.